Welcome to week 4 of our 6-week crash course on finances. This week we are talking about significant purchases and home buying, and we've got a great deal of information that we're going to cover. So we're going to start with significant purchases, we'll end on home buying, but what I want you to know about significant purchases is this: our bodies will go through a physiological change anytime we make a significant purchase. And we're going to define significant purchase as anything over $300. So one significant purchase that Ben and I made when we were first married, an impulsive purchase, was 2 Macintosh laptops. So we didn't have cash, so of course we paid for them with a credit card. Dumb, so dumb. And we totally fell for this gambit of, if you spend $1,000, we'll give you $100 towards that purchase. And so Ben and I were like, gosh, what a good deal. We're going to spend all this money and they're going to give us money in exchange, and it's going to work out. And this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Odds are you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. And you've experienced those situations because we live in the age of marketing, and marketers got the best of us then. It doesn't now, because we know now how to be smarter than our emotions, and we know how to be aware of the strategies that marketers use. So for your sake, the number one rule of marketing is to make them want what you have to give, what you have to sell. So marketers, they're both educated and they're very strategic, and their entire job is to learn why we behave the way that we do, and then they want to use that information to sell us things. Most of the time, things that we don't even need or necessarily even want until we're exposed to us, and they increase this desire of fear of missing out and hyping up some things that everybody's doing it. So in our case, we fell victim to the marketing of the credit card, but we also fell victim to immature desires. And so I needed this Macintosh laptop for my side business and editing wedding videos, which it was a business that lasted maybe 6 months before I realized I do not enjoy the stress of that. And I had already invested so much money. And so we were out that much money. And then, of course, Ben needed a Macintosh laptop because of football. So makes perfect sense. We are super naive. We're very stubborn, super immature. And then I think this is a good point to remind you that the definition of maturity is delayed gratification. And we did not have an ounce of maturity in our bones then. And so I want to encourage you to be mindful of what are marketing techniques that work on you, and how do we discern that, and then how do we fight back? So interesting to know that in 1971, the average American was exposed to about 560 advertisements in a single day. Single day. That was back in 1971. And today, the number is closer to 3,000 that we're exposed to, on average, 3,000 advertisements in a single day. That's crazy. That's wild. And that's a lot of people that's competing for your hard-earned money, your hard-earned investments. So don't just give that away to every little thing that your heart desires. We've got to learn to rein in some of these desires, control our impulses, and be smarter than our emotions. So the 5 steps that you should be taking in making wise purchases. Step number 1, consider your motives. Why do you want to make this purchase? Is it going to add value to your life? Is it going to add value to your family's life? Is it going to add value to your community? Is it something that after you sleep, that you still want the next day? I had a friend put a perspective in her life that I thought was brilliant. She would go to the store to pick out a clothes, or go shopping to pick out some clothes that she liked. And she found, if she saw a purse, a shirt, a blouse, whatever it is, shoes that she liked, she would look at the price tag, and then she would say, would I be willing to spend $1 every day to borrow this from my friend, and does that match up with the price? for example, if she sees a purse for $30, she would say, would I be willing to give my friend $1 every day for 30 days to borrow that purse? If the answer was yes, she would buy it. But if the answer was no, she would say, okay, then that's not something that I'm going to purchase today. And so that's an example of establishing specific criteria for your purchases, which I think is a very wise thing to do. Setting up some healthy boundaries ahead of time so that when the marketers do impose their will on your life, you have some really good guardrails in place to make a wise purchase and a wise decision, and still feel those emotions, but again, be smarter than them. So second thing, we want to do your research. In his book, Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell suggests that to be considered an expert in a field or an expert at your job, it requires 10,000 hours of deliberate practice. And you can't be an expert at everything. So let yourself off the hook, give yourself some grace. Do your research and gather the necessary data that you need to make an informed decision. So never purchase something that you don't understand. If there's a contract, read through it, ask questions. Give yourself grace and give the person who might be impatient with you a little bit of grace, and let them know you just want to understand and you just want to make sure that this is a win for you and for them and get everybody on the same page. Because you will find that there's a little bit of curtness with most people when it comes to, here's what we have to offer, just sign on the dotted line. Don't just sign on the dotted line. They might be frustrated with you, but that's no reason for you to make a rush decision. You're important. Your desires, your goals, your money is just as important as the next person. So if they are frustrated, let them manage their frustration. Their frustration does not constitute a rush on your end. Third thing I want you to know is to weigh the options. So every decision that we have has an opportunity cost, meaning every decision requires you to sacrifice something. You make an informed decision when you have weighed the pros and cons of your options, and then you're fully aware of what you're going to give up in order to move forward. For example, when Ben and I look through the week of our calendar, when we decide that we want to have a game night on Friday night with some friends, the opportunity cost for that is we don't get one-on-one time with the boys that night. We don't have family dinner with the boys that night. We don't have time with each other that night. So we have to consider, are we willing to sacrifice that time with our boys and with each other to make this event happen? And if the answer to that is yes, then emphatically we're going to do it. But if we feel like that week we're drained and we really just need some time to be with each other, we're going to reschedule, or we're going to politely say thank you for the invitation, but we're going to do this instead. And you don't always owe people an explanation for stuff like that. I know you might feel like, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings. Again, your desires, your hopes, your goals, your dreams are not less important than other people's emotions. So give yourself confidence in choosing the right things, even when other people don't understand. Best quote that I've heard, I think, on this subject is, relationships are formed and you desire to make those connections and you desire for those connections to be really good. But part of being a responsible adult and part of being a leader is disappointing people at a rate that they can handle. So being aware of what your friends need, of what your spouse needs, of what your kids need, and disappointing them at a rate that they can handle is honestly how we function through life, because you cannot please anybody, but you can be aware of what their needs are, and you can do your best to mitigate and to meet those needs when you can. So the Oh yes, the fourth thing that we're going to do is getting input. This one's one of my favorites. I love, love, love surrounding myself with people who are smarter than me. If I'm the smartest person at the table, then I'm at the wrong table. So seek perspective of some trusted voices that are invaluable to you. Your accountability partner is a good one to seek advice from, or just to talk through some things. And be sure to reach out to people who are going to ask you the hard questions. Don't go to somebody that you know is just going to be like, yeah, treat yourself. Those people are good and they're fun, but you've got goals, you've got dreams, and the definition of maturity is delayed gratification. Sometimes that means saying no to good things so that you can say yes to great things later in your life. And the fifth thing and final thing is to evaluate that purchase. It's been said that experience is the greatest teacher of all time, but I have to agree with John Maxwell when he says that evaluated experience is the best teacher. Experience alone is helpful, but when you look back and you reflect on what worked, what didn't work, that's where growth happens, and that's where you really truly begin to learn. So take the time to ask good questions about your purchase and learn about them, and ask yourself, if we could do this all over again, if we could start from scratch, would we make the same decision? Why? Why not? Don't learn solely from your mistakes either. So here's a good tip for this. A lot of times we tend to think like, okay, well, let's just analyze everything that we did wrong. No, analyze what you're doing right, because if you don't know what you're doing right, you can't recreate it. So far too many people look at what they're doing wrong to try to fix it, and they ignore what they're doing right to try and keep that up. So remember to do both. Okay, we're going to switch gears and we're going to go into some home buying and real estate purchases. This is a home is going to be one of the most significant purchases you're going to make in your entire lifetime. And so I want to spend some time about what Ben and I have learned and how to make it a little simple. Of course, we're in this section, we're only going to scratch the surface. Like, you're only going to see this iceberg part of home buying, and so I want to be conscientious of telling you, like, you're only getting the tip of the iceberg here. So do some research when it comes to doing purchasing, and do your research on mortgages. Get as much information as you can and understand what you're buying. But for homes, a little bit about my story is my first job out of college was for a property management company. And I remember my mind was completely blown when I realized that people could actually own more than one home. See, I grew up in the same home my entire life, and I just thought that's what you did. You buy a home and that becomes your home for your entire life. And it should have occurred to me that you could purchase more than one home, because people do need to rent. So I don't know where I thought that came into the picture, but I remember being just completely, the glass shattered, and I was like, this is our get rich plan. We're just going to start investing in rental homes. And so my dreams of using real estate to get rich started right then and there. Again, I was very naive, but with that in mind, purchasing real estate to get rich, we bought our first home, which was a duplex, in 2015. And I was pregnant with our first son at the time. And so this just happened to be around the same time that we took Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace course. And listening to his wisdom on planning was such a gift. It changed our entire life that year. So 7 out of every 10 Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and we were one of those 7 out of 10. We didn't plan ahead. We just kind of responded to the demands of our life, and we responded to the desires of our hearts. If we wanted something, we bought it. And I'm so thankful for that course, because if we hadn't have taken it, we would have filed bankruptcy within 24 months, no doubt in my mind. Our spending habits reflected that of an immature couple, just doing whatever felt good at the moment. And so I would caution you, don't do that. Don't do that. And I don't want anyone to be as naive as we were. We just kind of trusted our mortgage lender would give us something that we could afford. We didn't think for ourselves. We didn't think to do the math, and mostly because we were never really taught to. And my guess is that you were not ever taught to either. And so here are 3 things that we learned how to be wise when it comes to purchasing a home. First thing, know when to buy, know when to rent. there's this stigma about renting a home as if you're throwing your money away, and that's just not always the case. There's nothing wrong with renting during a season. If you want to be a home buyer, there's got to be a season where you're gathering that down payment and you are working your way towards that goal. So it's going to add value to your life if you are currently working through baby steps 1 through 3. Again, 1 is $1,000 in a starter emergency fund. Baby step 2 is the debt snowball. Baby step 3 is finishing out that emergency fund with 3 to 6 months of your expenses accounted for in that emergency fund. So renting is a really good season for those specific baby steps. It gives you time to be strategic about your home purchasing instead of impulsive and responsive. I know I get home fever, and Ben gets home fever, and I think nobody is immune to this desire of like, I want this perfect home and I want it to be beautiful. And it is so easy to get pulled in. Again, this is the marketer saying like, you're going to miss out. You need to buy it now. This home's going to be off the market. And you have this belief that if you don't capitalize on this moment, then you're just going to miss out on this once in a lifetime opportunity. Homes are being built every day, people. Like, that is just not true. That is not true. That is your emotions telling you to jump on something, which is exactly what the marketers want you to do. So don't fall into that trap. Use this time that you're renting to negotiate with your accountability partner, and maybe not even negotiating, but just starting the conversation. What do you want in a home? Do you want a big kitchen? Do you want some rooms to accommodate for everybody? So what are you looking for? And this season, when you're renting, you can really start to build this idea of the home that you want. So when you do go shopping for homes, you don't feel like you're leaving anything on the table, because you know exactly what you're looking for, and you know exactly how to go about searching that out and seeking it out. You can use this time to figure out what is a good financial limit. How much should you be paying? How much can you afford? Which takes me to that second thing that I'd love for you to know, and that is the best plan in general when purchasing a home is to put 100% down. Pay cash for that entire home. And that may sound daunting and overwhelming and impossible. I promise you it's not. But I also know that that can be a long season. And so knowing that we want to capitalize on all of the baby steps and we want to shift you through, if you're not able to pay 100% for a home, we're going to call this baby step 3B in Dave Ramsey's 7 steps. And that is to your monthly payment, you want to be no more than 25% of your take-home pay. So there's 3 little caveat here. 25% of your take-home pay should be your monthly payment or your mortgage payment. You would want to aim for a 15-year fixed rate loan, and then you want at least 10% down on that purchase. So hypothetically, you're going to buy a home for $100,000. Then you want that loan to be paid off in a 15-year time span. You want to be able to put $10,000 down towards that. And then you want to make sure that your monthly take home is your mortgage is not exceeding 25% of your monthly take home pay. So the third thing is real estate agents. They are worth the investment. They've got a fiduciary duty to you, which means they have to act in your best interest. This is part of getting a license. This is what they signed up for. I want to meet your needs. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you're looking for. And so communicate. We are looking for a home that fits these financial specs. Don't show me anything above it, because a lot of uneducated real estate agents get this bad reputation for they just want to bump up their commissions, and so they're going to sell you the homes. If you're not communicating with them what you need, they don't know how to meet that need. So you've got to be smart. You've got to take control of your situation. Do not leave your financial future in the hands of somebody else who is there to help meet your dreams, but also your needs. So communicate. This is what we're looking for. And then, and be firm on that. Then the second thing for real estate agents, they have access to the MLS, which is the multiple listing systems, which is their access to be able to show you multiple homes. So they've got a really unique way to have access to the homes that you're looking for, and they can do a lot of the searching and the digging. That they can take that off of your plate, and they can get you in to set appointments to look at multiple homes instead of you doing that research yourself. It's going to save you a significant amount of time. And then uh, the last thing that's helpful with the real estate agents is that they're going to have some helpful connections to title companies. So you don't have to do your research and figuring out which is the best one. There's so many things that you have to consider in purchasing a home, and there's so many documents. The real estate agent is really going to help add a professional edge to the process and make it as easy for you as possible. So those are the three tips: know when to buy, when to rent. The best plan is 100% down, but if you can't, look for a 15-year fixed rate loan, at least 10% down, and no more than 25% of your take-home pay for a mortgage. And then using a real estate agent is worth the investment. That's all I have for you guys today. I'll see you next week.